And it's the dumbest bill in America, and it is transgender curriculum for prisoners. Just what you wanted with your tax dollars. Transgender curriculum for prisoners. The Biden administration funnels taxpayer dollars into programming curriculum for transgender inmates. The Department of Justice invested almost $1.5 million of your money into a transgender programming curriculum focused on transgender inmates' needs. The curriculum is designed to help transgender inmates with their gender identity, sexual health, and safety, according to a summary of the government contract. Though it's unclear if the curriculum has been implemented, the program could be available for up to 1,200 transgender inmates, according to Justice Department estimates. So you can't eat, but you can't afford food, you can't afford gas, can't afford to heat your house or cool your house, but not to worry. There is a program that has curriculum teaching you how to be a transgender in prisons of all places. The program helps inmates receive new identification documents and hormonal treatment. The statement of work for the program reads, I gotta say that again. The program helps inmates receive new identification documents. Yeah, so by the way, what could go wrong there? You have a dude who's in prison because he murdered somebody, right? And with Democrats in charge now in the United States, they're letting these bad people out of prisons. So the dude, while in prison, gets hormonal treatments at taxpayer expense and then changes, not necessarily into a woman, but looks more feminine, wears a wig or grows their hair long, grows breasts because they take these hormonal treatments. It's still a dude. He's still a murderer. He gets out. And now he's a woman murderer, right? Now he's a transgender murderer, if you will. So, yeah, what could go wrong with that? Safe housing options within the prison will also be made available to transgender inmates. I am not buying that for a minute, okay? I'm not buying that for a minute. Safe housing? Safe housing? What does that mean? What does that mean? The assumption is that you're supposed to have safe housing to begin with. But if you're in a prison, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but if you're in prison, you're in prison with all dudes, right? So are they saying like if you decide to transition into a transgender woman that you might become very attractive to all the dudes?
So let's say you're a man who raped a woman.
Exactly. So there's nothing about this that's going to go well, of course, but more importantly is that principle, and it's a conservative principle, because so many people argue different parts of these kinds of programs rather than the most essential one, which is that's not what the purpose of taxpayer dollars are to be spent, right? Taxpayer dollars, as a conservative, aren't supposed to be spent for this. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So the Washington Free Beacon first reported the existence of this contract last Sunday. As part of the program, inmates will seek employment through the assistance of institutional social workers. The statement of work says, transgender inmates will also be taught about discrimination laws that protect them when seeking employment. The Biden administration's investment comes amid reports of violence in prisons from transgender inmates. The Biden administration's investment comes amid reports of violence in prisons from the transgender inmates, okay? Not to them, but from them. And meaning that the Biden administration's getting data that the transgender inmates are causing violence in prisons. But nonetheless, the Biden administration wants to double down and pay for more of this with your tax dollars. In April, a biological male inmate was sentenced to an additional 7 years for raping a female inmate. And this isn't funny. What I'm laughing about here is he's already in prison. And because of the fact that your tax dollars are being used to pay for these individuals to have sex change operations and hormone treatment and so forth, this biological male inmate got an additional 7 years on top of the sentence he was already serving for raping a female inmate in the women's section of a New York prison. Just like what Chris just said, right? Our producer, Christopher Hopkins, just said, well, how about if you're in prison for rape? Well, that actually just happened. A dude was in prison for rape, And this past April, he ended up being put into the women's section of the New York State prison and then raped a woman. Well, what did you expect? This is what being a Democrat is today. I'm sorry. It really is. It's like it's Dumb and Dumber. You know the movie Dumb and Dumber? How stupid can you be? Which is why we start out this podcast, certainly with the dumbest bill in America. On that particular segment, you have the dumb, because it really is. You have to be really, really stupid to think such a policy would actually be effective, and for what purpose? For what possible purpose? And then in the Epic Times, to underscore all of the problems we have in America and why we have so many people in prison, there is this story that says, fatherless homes linked to mental illness, mass shootings, author Warren Farrell said. And basically the article says, look, the reason why we have so many people in prison and the reason why we have so many people with mental illness and so many young men in particular in their 20s and so forth who are so angry who end up in prison is because they were raised in fatherless homes. So think about this. You might say, well, Mark, what does this have to do with the dumbest bill in America? Actually, everything. If you were raised in a fatherless home and you're angry because you didn't have a father in your life, because your father abandoned your mother, they were divorced, he didn't want to have anything to do with you. This happens all the time, by the way, in the United States of America. The kid grows up without a father figure. The kid's angry, okay? Commits a crime, a serious crime, ends up going to prison. The kid gets into prison, and then you have the Biden administration saying, well, you've got options here. We know that you're a dude, but now you can become a woman. So then you won't be so angry at your dad anymore. Or just flip that on its head and just think about a young woman. But let's face it, there are far more young men who are in prison. And many of those, according to, and this of course makes perfect sense, according to Warren Farrell of this article in the Epic Times, he's saying fatherless homes are linked to mental illness directly, mass shootings, and we shouldn't be surprised why so many people are in prison when they don't have a father and the father figure. And then once again, they get into prison and the Biden administration's like, well, it's time to really have some fun now. We know that you weren't a dad. You didn't have a dad. We know that you're angry that you didn't have a dad. So why don't you become a mom? And of course, the Biden administration, through their transgender curriculum for prisoners, again, it's curriculum, the Biden administration is going to teach these prisoners that it's okay to be a woman and that they can actually get pregnant, because that's what the Democrats believe. They believe dudes can get pregnant when they transition. The Biden administration, it's not just they've lost their minds, they're the ones that have the mental health issue. The Democrat Party is so sick at the national level. And there are plenty of people in my own state, I will tell you this is true, who are Democrats who are equally sick because they do indeed believe that men, once they transition and become a transgender, can actually get pregnant. Just like Pete Buttigieg, his husband had twins, right? Yeah, right. Sure. So we have a federal government that's decided that it's okay to use your taxpayer dollars to pay for curriculum for prisoners. And that is transgender curriculum for prisoners, and that is the dumbest bill in America. That's it for Mark and the Millennials. Thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you to our producer, Christopher Hopkins. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Getter, True Social, Rumble, and our website. See you next time.